Right, this is my quantillionth time recording this, but we're going to go again because the last million of them have been just really bad. Last one was okay as a guide, but the audio was all messed up, so this is a new one. Hopefully with fixed audio. It's basically because I reinstalled Windows, because I was having massive stuttering, and then, long story short, I had to delete all my files, reinstall them, so all the audio got messed up, all my settings have reset, so that's why the audio is messed up. But this lap was a 155.748, which is pretty competitive. If we go into Iracing, we go to Prototype Challenge. Okay, so in the most recent lobby, yeah, so 155.7 would see you on P1, P2. The Ferrari is a much faster car though compared to the Acura on this track, so yeah, there's still quite a bit of improvement to be made in this lap, as you will see. So I think if I just dusted off some of the sectors, it could have been a lot better. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So coming out the bus stop chicane, we want to prioritise good exit, so take a wide entry and just prioritise the exit, and you'll be spat out and you'll gain like a few hundredths of a second, which is very good. Right, so we look for the braking marker for the source, which is this red signpost right here, this little red gate, and we brake when it exits our screen, boom, and we shift down into first, and we cut as much as possible. Boom. Right here, I'm modulating the brake, changing my rate of release, which I covered in my last video. Then we track out, we got nice and good exit. We don't use this curb though, otherwise traction control kicks in. There's a few curbs that are like this, so I'll tell you where they are and where to take curbs, where to avoid them. So just to recap, don't take this curb. Okay, so we're coming down the straight into El Rouge and Radion. So we cut as much as possible here, we avoid this little dirt patch, then we come up and over the Radion. Okay, and the marker that we're looking for is this little rubber, I don't even know, it's like a dirty part of the curb. That's our signal to start straightening up, and that'll give us the perfect cut. So I sort of did it too late this lap and then artificially cut. But yeah, so if we just use that reference cut, this is how much you want to cut. It's about 2 wheels on the outside, on the inside curb. So yeah, that's probably the max you want to cut right there. Right. So light hands through here, just let the car track itself out, so we don't lose any speed, because the more steering angle we give, the more resistance we have, which means we slow down. It might even be a thousandth of a second, but that's a difference between pole and not. Right. So we come down. Interesting little thing here. We don't get all the way over to the left right now, because we don't want to run our wheels on this patch of dirt here, because we're going to get onto the curb straight after it. So we brake at the curb and we shift down into third, and then mount the curb as much as possible. Boom. Then we cut as much as possible without getting on the gravel too much. It's a bit of a non-specific track limit, but you're just going to have to experiment. You can graze it slightly, but you can't get onto it, if that makes sense. So cut as much as possible, because this will hook you in as well. See the edge of the curb here, that hooks the tyres in. Then we come back and we hook our tyres into here. As we can see here, I got a snap of oversteer, which probably costed me a tenth of a second. So there's the improvement. Then for Malmedy, it's only a slight lift, and we do it early into the entry phase of the corner, so then we can get back on the throttle, fully back on the power, when we are before the apex. Boom, before the apex right there. And for Malmedy, we can graze the gravel again, but as long as we have 2 wheels on this white line here, we're fine. Same again as Legom. We don't go all the way over to the left, we sort of diagonally get onto this curb, so we don't run our wheels over the dirt patch, because as we know, that reduces grip now. Boom. So we shift down into first eventually. So we shift down slowly in this corner into first because we don't want to overslow. We can take this in second or first, and I just want you to experiment and suit your driving style because I really like a pokey nose. So in second we have less engine braking, which means less rotation. So I shift in first, but do experiment with second gear. Do you see that little twitch that I gave here? It's because I noticed that I was over rotating, and because that's why I overslowed this corner ever so slightly. So I was rotating more, and if I kept the steering angle and kept this rotation, then I would have went into this grass and mounted the curb and stuff. So that's a sign of overslowing into this hairpin. Not hairpin, but it is, yeah, it's pretty much a hairpin. For no name, or now known as Jackie Ink's corner, we mount the right hand side curb, and we can do two things here. We can either just lift fully and get back on the throttle, or we can ever so slightly just brush the brakes just to get the nose in. I prefer the first one, no, the second one, sorry. Just brushing the brakes slightly and getting the nose rotated. It's important to note as well that we can't mount this sausage curb too much, otherwise it does bounces, and I sort of did this lap, so that's why it bounced me. Track limits, as long as your two wheels are on this white line, we're fine. Okay, so we're going into Pouhon. There's no really good braking marker for this, to be honest. High speed corners, I do it off feel, but that's just me. So for Pouhon, I brake as soon as I'm starting to, as soon as I've engaged my steering wheel there, and we make sure that we're not overusing the steering wheel. So don't add too much steering lock. Just get the rotation from the brakes. So into fifth, and as soon as the car is really hooked up, I can feel it through the wheel because the wheel stiffens up, which means the tyres are loaded up. Then I get back on the throttle. Okay, for Piff Path, we brake at the curb and we shift slowly into third. Don't try and rush the downshifts too much because otherwise you're going to overslow. In my experience, I don't use these inside curbs, but you can try it. Also, make sure that we're not using too much steering lock. This is a good amount of steering lock for it, in my opinion. Anymore, it's just a bit. You're gonna really burn out the tyres very quickly. Then, as soon as we exit, so for the first part of Piff Path, I sort of over-compromised the first part because I got spat out really on the right-hand side here. So ideally we want to be spat out a bit further to the left because it's anyway a very short straight after this, which goes into Stavolo. So there's no point trying to over-compromise this corner. Over-compromise, this corner for the next. So there's no brake here, it's just a little lift. And then we mount this left hand side curb and we cannot really touch this grass. Boom. And this curb will slow you down ever so slightly. So I think it's not worth taking it. We shift at the curb here for Stavolo. We shift down into third and we build as much rotation on the brakes here, that's very important. Don't try and rotate too much of the steering gear, it's all in the brake. You can take this faster, you can take this corner faster than you think you can. Boom. So as soon as I'm rotated and the car's really loaded up on the outside tyres, I start to get back on the throttle. And track limits here, we can graze the gravel here, but we can't get fully onto it as long as two wheels are on this white line. It's also reasonable to do as well. We don't have to mount this curb all the way because we can take this flat regardless. We can actually take any line we want through it and it's flat. And it ever so slightly slows down your exit because obviously the car bounces very momentarily. So I wouldn't get over as far as this. I would get onto it, but not as much as I have. So I'd get spat out here, I'd mount it, and then I'd get back off it, if that makes sense. We can use this inside curb, but I just don't want to risk getting bounced and then losing exit speed. And then this curb will slow you down ever so slightly on the straight, so when you're qualifying, don't use it. Okay, now we just cut as much as possible, just shorten out the line. Blanchiments flat out. Okay, we broke a bit early, and I really messed it up in this lap, so I'm going to get off this lap and go to this one and show you the same corner, because the line was completely wrong. Okay, so we brake as soon as this 100 board is about to leave our screen. Brake to 100% here, hold it for a little bit. And it's also worth noting that you can see that I'm not all the way over to the left at this point. I am over to the right, and I diagonal it, because that's you've just slightly extended the braking zone by doing this. So you can brake just that tiny bit later. And it also allows us to use this braking zone here, this 100 board, as our braking marker, because if we brake all the way over to the left, then we have to brake earlier than what I have just done. So by using this 100 mod, we can brake here. Then we shift down into first, and we really try and smash this inside curb, which I did not do. And then didn't do it again. I don't know. Oh, I know what happened. Right, that was the lap that I was trying to show you in the first place. Okay, so we brake like that. Shift down into first. We can mount this curb, but only towards the end. Don't mount it straight away, because it will really start to bounce you. But if you mount it during the very end, almost when you're doing that 1% threshold, then we can mount it. We smash this inside curb, get back on the throttle very momentarily, and then we can get on the inside curb as well. And then we don't use this exit curb, because it slows us down. Okay, so now I'll play the hot lap of the 155 lap from start to finish. Okay, so that was my lap guide of Spa-Francorchamps with the Acura GTP. So closing remarks, remember to make sure what curbs we can and can't use, or the ones that we can't use are more just the ones that slow us down ever so slightly because they are too rough, usually on the exits of hairpins, so just remember that. So the fastest car is the Ferrari, in case you're wondering. Right on this track, Acura second best, and then whatever else comes after, I'm not too sure. So yeah, this track just is really important with the trail brake. And managing the steering angle. If you use too much steering angle, you're going to be way off the pace. So make sure that you're building the rotation on the brakes mainly, and then the steering angle is like your secondary rotation tool. So yeah, thank you very much for watching.